I moved to Sweden for the 2022-2023 season to play volleyball in Uppsala and take the next step towards playing professionally. I had some hiccups along the way, like not being allowed into the country till the season had started, or the flat that Meg and I were meant to be living in having water damage. But now been a month or so, Meg and I have been living in our flat and gotten into a good routine. However, despite things being more settled, in a lot of ways, they weren't going very well. So if you've been following this series, you know the season so far hasn't been going very well for Uppsala. We haven't won a game, I've only taken a handful of sets, and then for me personally, things haven't been going too well either. I'm yet to start a game and I've only come off the bench a handful of times. And unfortunately, the next 3 games which we'll look at in today's video were to be no different. I wasn't going to start and Uppsala weren't going to win. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. We do eventually turn the season around and I eventually do get in the team. But between now and then, we have to go through some pretty dark times. So in this video, whilst you watch the footage, we'll be looking at how to deal with that as an athlete, how I dealt with it at the time, how we dealt with it as a team, and maybe hopefully something you can take away. As we have a look at these games then, I want to talk a bit more about how I deal with setbacks in both sport and life more generally, and what I learned from going through this period. The first thing to recognize is that obviously losing sucks. So if you're going through a spell in sport or in life where you're picking up a lot of L's, I think it's helpful to recognize that it's okay for this to feel rubbish like it's going to, obviously, and to not then beat yourself up for not feeling your best. Again, come back to the idea that it's okay to not feel okay. Additionally, I think it helps to be aware of this because it lets you get out in front of the negative emotions when they do come and you can deal with it a bit more productively. I think the most important thing though, and the general theme I kept coming back to, is to focus what you can and can't control. This is obviously a really common idea in sport and obviously life more generally. You can relate it to the Serenity Prayer or Stoicism or whatever, but I find it really helpful to keep this in mind. It keeps me on the straight and narrow. So in this case, when results aren't going your way, it's very easy to get a bit flustered and lost and not really know what to do. So asking yourself the question, what can I actually control? And then focus on the answer to that, I find very grounding. Helps you stay focused on the important things, your training, nutrition, recovery, sleep, and so on. Ultimately, you can't control whether you win or lose or whether the coach picks you or not. All you can do is keep turning up, giving it your all, and doing the things you know will maximize the chance of you playing well, getting picked, playing well for the team, and picking up a W. Another reason I think it's helpful is it stops you getting bogged down worrying about things you can't do anything about, and it might be unhelpful to think about. So there's a very good example of this that applied to me this season. So in the top league of Swedish volleyball, there is a foreigner limit. So you can only have 3 foreign guys on court at a time. And in our team, we had 4 guys all sniffing around the starting lineup. So you had me, another guy from the UK, Alex, our setter, and then 2 Aussies, Jimmy and Harrison, and opposite and middle respectively. You may see the problem here, which is that 4 is a bigger number than 3. So the point is, I'm not just competing with the guys in my position, I'm also competing with the other foreigners, because if I play, one of those guys has to get benched. I think I was a little unlucky here because, in my opinion, the difference between me and the other left sides was pretty small, but the difference between the other foreign guys and the next person up in their position was a bit bigger, which meant, for argument's sake, and I don't necessarily believe this was the case, but let's just say, if I was the best left side, but again, only by a bit, it doesn't actually mean I'm necessarily going to start, because if Alex, Jimmy and Harrison are all way better than the next setter, opposite and middle, then they're going to take the starting spots and the 3 foreign positions. However, coming back to this idea of the dichotomy of control, what does thinking and complaining about this actually achieve? Quite honestly, not a lot. Sitting here feeling sorry for myself that maybe if not for this rule I'd be starting isn't making me a better player. It's not making me move towards my goals. So come back to the mantra. Focus on what you can and can't control. I can control how hard I work. I can't control this rule or how good everyone else is or isn't. So in summary then, I could tell myself, keep your eyes peeled for thinking about this. Next time you notice yourself worrying about it, again, notice it, call it out for the BS that it is, and then refocus your attention on something productive. Relatedly, I think our coach Michael said a lot, which I liked, was to trust the process. This gets to some of the same ideas, but there's some other bits of this I like as well. One is the importance of staying patient. It's really easy when things aren't going your way to be so desperate to win, you can cut corners and do something rash. So this season in Uppsala, I had some problems with my knee from the increased load from when I was playing in the UK, so load management became really important. So for example, let's say my knee's feeling really sore after 3 days of training, I know I should rest and have a floor session on day 4, so I'm definitely fit for the weekend, don't do myself any damage in the long run and have a more serious setback the next week. But I know that if I don't jump for a session and haven't been starting, I'm very unlikely to then get a pick for the weekend. So it'd be tempting, if you get impatient, to say, sod it, I'll jump on the last day of training, hope I have a great performance and then I'll get that spot. But realistically, that would be stupid, as it's much more likely that I don't have this wonder session that I'm hoping for and I just set myself back with an injury, or maybe I do get the chance to play the weekend coming for the bench, but now my knee's really sore because I overtrained during the week. Much better to trust the process, trust that you will improve and you'll get to the spot you want to if you keep working both hard, but sensibly and intelligently and patiently. However, having this patience is both easier said than done, but also can be a little bit of a trap because it's very easy to slip into a position where you become almost accustomed to or comfortable with losing. And that is a really, really dangerous place to be in any sport for a number of reasons. You often hear it said of good teams that they have a habit of winning. But unfortunately, the same can also be true of losing. And you have to fight very, very hard to not let this happen. Because on game day, it can massively affect your performance. You get in a situation where the team feels like it almost doesn't quite know how to close out the set of the match. Whenever I used to hear this, I always think that sounds stupid. Of course we know how to win. You just win 25 points and do it 3 times. Boom, you've won the match. What are you talking about? But there is a real truth to this, and I've really struggled to put this into words, but if you look out for it, you will start to notice this when you play in any sport. Again, it's not just volleyball. You can get to 20 all, and if you're the team that just knows how to win, you're in the habit of winning, you have that confidence, something inside you, you are so much more likely, even though you've just traded 20 all in points, it's now a 5-point shootout, you are way more likely to win. And again, the opposite's also true. If you're the team that just can't find a win, you've gotten out of the habit of winning and you've got into a habit of losing where you're just comfortable almost with losing. It doesn't bother you in the same way as it would do if the winning team lost. You are so much more likely to lose this next 5 points or 10 points or whatever than the other team, even though until this point you traded completely evenly. Okay, that might have been a bit of a mouthful. I think I can hopefully explain this better with an analogy to another sport. So Meg and I often play a decent bit of table tennis together, just in the garden or whatever. And whenever we play, it doesn't really matter how much of a handicap I give Meg. No matter the score, I always truly, sincerely believe I'm going to win.
Oh, that's genius.
And it's not because Meg's crap, I'm often wrong, and Meg does win. That's not the point. The point is, no matter the situation, I'm always confident I'm good enough to win. And consequently, I play way better. Whereas when the shoe is on the other foot is a completely different story. So I have a friend, Alex, who I've mentioned on the channel before, who I think when it comes to table tennis, in terms of our skills, fundamentally, we're probably pretty similarly matched.
However, when it comes to the final outcome of our games, as much as it pains me to admit it, it isn't close. In no small part because
Alex's main sport is tennis, where he plays to a very, very high level. I think when he was at university, he was part of Loughborough's first team that won Bucks. So one of the best players, university players in the country at the time. And this really shows when we play table tennis.
because he's able to take this ruthlessness and confidence from the tennis court onto the table tennis table.
So time and time again, it will be crunch time in the set and I will be up 10-8 or whatever, some score like that. And I'm in my head, it is so different from when I'm up against Meg or down against Meg. I'm just thinking, what on earth am I doing here? What's going on? Oh God, I hope he misses. I've none of the same belief I'm going to win. And obviously, I know that's bad. So I'm telling myself, yeah, George, you're going to win. You're so good. Just smash it. But it's hollow. Like I know deep down, I don't fundamentally believe that and feel that in the way I do against Meg. And you could say, well, duh, you're a lot better than Meg and you aren't a lot better than Alex. So of course you're more confident. But I think that's missing the point. The reason I mentioned table tennis is to highlight the importance of having confidence and more importantly, having belief that you're going to win. So relating this back to volleyball and this idea of fighting, letting losing become a habit. Like I said earlier, you ultimately can't control if you lose. You can control how you react to and think about these losses. The context you see them in has a huge effect and completely changes whether it's another loss where you're just going through the motions or it's another loss where you fought tooth and nail, didn't give up and genuinely went into the game believing this could be the one, we could win this game. So although going through this start of the season was pretty unpleasant and somewhat dire, part of me is glad to have gone through it because I've learned an awful lot about myself and how to deal with losing, which, like it or not, is an inevitable part of sport. So it's really important to learn how to lose productively so that you bounce back in the best position possible to push forwards. So that's that for these games then. I've been talking about the team struggling with getting a win and my fight to get in the starting lineup. The good news is that the next week, one of these things was going to change for the better. The bad news is it will be another few weeks until the other one followed suit.